Candy is a character from the novella of Mice and Men, written by John Steinbeck. Published in 1937, the work explores the struggles of migrant workers during the Great Depression in the United States. Candy is an aging ranch worker who has lost one hand in an accident. Physically weakened and nearing the end of his usefulness, he lives in constant fear of being discarded. Despite his vulnerability, he becomes emotionally invested in George and Lenny's dream of owning land, seeing in it a final chance for security and dignity. One character's story. Candy's story unfolds on the ranch where he works as a swamper. From his first appearance, he is portrayed as lonely and anxious, eager for companionship and relevance. He quickly befriends George and Lenny, drawn to them partly because they are new and partly because he senses kindness and possibility in them. One of the most defining moments in Candy's story is the fate of his old dog. The dog, once a skilled sheepdog, has become weak, blind, and useless. Carlson insists that the dog should be put out of its misery, arguing that it no longer serves a purpose. Candy reluctantly agrees but is deeply affected by the decision. His regret, especially that he did not shoot the dog himself, reveals his fear of losing control over his own life and future. This moment foreshadows Candy's own situation. Like his dog, he worries that once he is no longer useful, he will be cast aside without dignity. This fear intensifies his emotional vulnerability and motivates his actions later in the story. When George shares the dream of owning a small farm, Candy becomes immediately captivated. Unlike others who dismiss the dream as unrealistic, Candy sees it as a tangible opportunity. He offers his life savings to join George and Lenny, transforming the dream into something that seems achievable. For Candy, this plan represents more than financial security. It symbolizes belonging, independence, and escape from loneliness. However, Candy's hope is ultimately shattered. After Lenny accidentally kills Curly's wife, the dream collapses. Candy realizes that without Lenny, the plan will never materialize. His reaction is one of quiet devastation rather than dramatic despair. He understands that his last chance for a better life has vanished, and he is left to face the same bleak future he feared from the beginning. Role in the narrative. Candy plays a crucial supporting role in the narrative, serving both as a mirror and a catalyst. His presence reinforces key themes such as aging, usefulness, and the fragility of dreams. First, Candy acts as a reflection of what happens to workers who are no longer physically capable. Through him, the reader sees the harsh reality of a society that values individuals primarily for their labor. His situation foreshadows George and Lenny's potential fate, emphasizing the instability of their lives. Second, Candy is essential in advancing the central dream of the story. By offering his savings, he transforms George and Lenny's vision from a distant fantasy into a realistic possibility. This shift raises the emotional stakes, making the eventual collapse of the dream more impactful. Finally, Candy functions as an emotional anchor. His reactions, especially to the death of his dog and the loss of the dream, guide the reader's emotional response. Through him, the narrative explores quiet despair rather than dramatic tragedy, highlighting the everyday suffering of ordinary people. Symbolic significance. Candy symbolizes the inevitability of aging and the fear of obsolescence. His physical disability and declining usefulness represent the vulnerability of workers in a system that prioritizes productivity over humanity. Like his dog, Candy embodies the idea that those who can no longer contribute are seen as expendable. He also symbolizes the human need for hope. His investment in the dream of owning land reflects a universal desire for security, independence, and belonging. Even though the dream ultimately fails, Candy's belief in it demonstrates how hope can sustain individuals in difficult circumstances. Steinbeck likely created Candy to illustrate the social realities of the Great Depression, particularly the treatment of older and disabled workers. By giving Candy a voice and emotional depth, the author highlights the human cost of economic hardship. Candy's story makes abstract social issues more personal and relatable. Readers generally view Candy with sympathy and compassion. He is often seen as one of the most tragic figures in the story, not because of a dramatic downfall, but because of his quiet suffering and lost hope. Many readers also interpret his story as a warning about how society neglects its most vulnerable members. For conclusion, Candy is an aging, disabled ranch worker who longs for security and companionship. His concise characterization reveals a man shaped by fear, loneliness, and a deep desire for dignity. Symbolically, he represents both the harsh reality of being deemed useless and the enduring human need for hope. Readers widely empathize with him, recognizing his struggle as both personal and universal. Through Candy, the narrative underscores the fragility of dreams and the vulnerability of those on the margins of society. His story, though quiet, leaves a lasting impression, reminding readers of the importance of compassion and the human cost of a world driven by utility rather than empathy.